This episode is brought to you by Explore St. Louis. Explore St. Louis is your source for all things to do, to eat, to see, to experience in the city under the arch. From Michelin star restaurants to affordable boutique hotels and more, ExploreSTL.com is your co-pilot when visiting the 314. Tony Kuster. For those that know, yes, he is still as direct as he's ever been. What you might not have known was that before he was coaching some of STL's best talent for decades, he was playing old school KC rock and roll on the road, opening for artists like Ted Nugent. A character for sure and an equally brilliant soccer mind to boot. Let's go. What's up, J-Rod?
Hello.
You like this one?
I do. This is a good one.
It's classic, right?
It is a classic.
Little K-Sheet classic.
Yeah.
We've been country heavy lately.
We have been country heavy. But this is, I like this one.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's fine. Are you not a fan of the British invasion either?
No, I'm okay with the British invasion. I mean, it broadened our horizons.
Yeah. It was kind of a big deal, you know? Soccer Dad Pod, we're back. Got another episode coming at you today. We've been on a run.
Yeah.
Been in front of the mics a lot lately.
We have.
It's been fun, though. Real quick, I want to throw out some thank yous. As you guys all know, Explore St. Louis continues to support the show. ExploreSTL.com. Find that new restaurant, find that show, find that concert, find boutique, bougie, a.k.a. also affordable hotels. St. Louis, whether you're here or coming in for soccer tournaments, because I know a lot of you parents are listening. And fall soccer tournament is upon. So book your rooms. Go to ExploreSTL.com. And our friends over at Crescent Plumbing Supply, new showroom. They got some new stuff over there, too. I was just on a call with them, literally, before you walked in here. We're going to get in there, and we're going to check out what's going on. They say it gets kids cleaner faster.
Really?
Like, really, as opposed to just a normal shower. And they're like, yep.
Wire brush?
I don't know. I'm intrigued, though.
Yeah.
Because I need to just get them out of the bathroom, period, and make sure they're clean.
You need more bathrooms in general.
I do, but, you know, we've talked about this. We bought the house, totally fit us and a little one, and then we grew to 3, and it didn't fit us and the 3, and now one's out, and another one's about to be out. It's going to fit us again soon.
You're a breeder.
No, I'm kind of like a procrastinator. So a lot of things going on. First thing I want to do, I want to talk about the previous episode. We had Coach Vitello on.
Whoa.
Kind of reminiscing. If you haven't caught that one, go back, have a listen. Just a great dude. I don't know. I mean, you know, we've this has happened a number of times where it's like, Jesus, I wasn't expecting that, and I was not expecting that.
You know what I think is cool, and I had a smile on my face on the way home from that one. Might have been the 7 Zwickle lights I had, but also that's one of those guys. He's an older timer. He's not into social media probably per se like a lot of us young guys are, and I don't know if the right word is apprehensive, but it took a little bit of coaxing to get him on. And we've had this with some of the guys, and once he got on, you can tell he had a whole hell of a lot of fun, and he was emotional, and yeah. I mean, it was really cool to see that side of him, and what an ace, man. With this town, the kids that have been around him, lucky to have him. Yeah,
he was DeSmet's first soccer coach, and then he coached baseball, went on to win a number of state championships in both sports, and obviously his son, Tony, just won a national championship for the University of Tennessee at the College World Series. Just all these stories, and his old players that went to the national team and pro. And I mean, he checked all the boxes. It was a fun one. A lot of things going on just in general in the world, which makes the Your Name Here points of the day that much more fun.
Yeah.
And I'm always curious. What you bringing me? Something off the wall?
No, I'm gonna go soccer today, and I'll start. I'm gonna because it's that time, and I'm itching. Your name here, point one of the day. We are less than 4 weeks, really about 3 weeks and 2 days for SLU's home opener. August 23rd, Friday, August 23rd. A little club by the name of Indiana comes to town, and if you don't have your tickets and you're a fan of the sport in this game, that is absolutely the top level of amateur soccer that our country has to offer. I'm excited for the season. I've said it many times, but that game, first off, is going to be great. And I was just looking at SLU's schedule. You know who they go? So they host Indiana on Friday, August 23rd at Herman Stadium. Get on Ticketmaster, get on the website, come down. Let's fill it for them. They go and play at SMU, their next game. So say what you want. They've had good recruiting classes. I think that the name of the game is to win. They have the pieces to win, but the way they schedule and the teams that they're going to play, they could be ranked and they could have a very successful year and realistically be 0-2.
Yep.
I mean, and those are good programs that really got the ball rolling. I'm anxious to see them start.
It's a double-edged sword for a bunch of St. Louisans that run these teams, because you call your friends who run other teams, and, oh, by the way, they're pretty good. So, hey, best of luck to Coach Kalish and the crew. And don't forget, have a back-to-back weekend, or late week, I should say, because on the 22nd, the night before, go across the river, go over there to SIUE. You're going to see Michigan State playing SIUE Cougars. We're going to be at that one too. So we're going to go Spartans Cougars, followed by Billikens Hoosiers.
And then for like soccer fans that are true loyalist fans that want to watch good games and root our kids on, SLU has basically 4 home games in the month of September. The weather really starts to turn. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
One of those games is the Brass Boot game, which I mean, it's now at the stadium. Just come to the games, man. I mean, they need you out there, and it's going to be a lot of fun watching those kids.
I'm with you. Hey, my Your Name Here point of the day is this is stemming from the Olympics and some of the stuff that's going on there, kind of in support of the different teams, sports, athletes, etc. I'm starting to get super intrigued by, in particular, the rap world, and it's just affection for the Olympics. First, you have Snoop walking in with the flame, but I think my favorite kind of sub story here is Flavor Flav sponsoring, what is it, the water polo team?
He is. I didn't even catch this.
Yeah, I read this article, and long story short, he read something about how a number of the players are working multiple jobs in order to try and pay and make their team and be able to go, because obviously they're not making any money. Flavor Flav saw this and he kicked money in and is the unofficial official sponsor of the women's water polo team. So here's my point. I think it's awesome that pop culture is you know what? Okay, U.S. Olympic Committee, you can't get this right. You can't get these athletes at least funded.
Yeah, or athletes and teams out and about. And
we're going to fix it for you. And Flavor Flav.
On a side note that will piggyback on your point, and you mentioned his name, Snoop Dogg, and if you haven't checked out the soundbite, so I guess somebody commentating the Olympics, they go over to badminton, and Snoop is in the area where they're talking about it. So Snoop starts commentating badminton.
Oh, I love it.
You should listen to what he has to say about badminton.
Is it like basketball?
It is so entertaining. Badminton is badminton, and the way he talks about it, it's worth watching. It's a pretty funny clip.
Well, it's funny because I was talking to a buddy about all this over coffee the other morning, and he made a great point. He's like, these crazy ideas, these things that occur organically and quickly, you never know what's going to stick. And he goes, for example, you remember when Peyton and his brother started doing the NFL games from their basements during COVID or whatever? And we all know what happened with that, right?
Yeah.
Completely blew up, Peyton and Eli, right?
It rivals the ratings for the actual live game on Monday Night Football.
Which is literally just two dudes
Yeah.
watching the game, just giving their slapstick feedback on
Yeah.
it. Now, obviously,
And having Dynamite guests now.
And they have a little bit more insight than the average Joe football player.
Yeah.
But it's the simplicity of it, and I think that's what we're seeing with a lot of these sports and these popular people getting involved with it. Wrexham, right?
Yeah.
You know, for those two to buy that team for, what was it, $7 million, $9 million, or whatever it was. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. That's nothing to them. Yeah. And how much is that Wrexham team worth now, post Hulu and post 2 promotions in a row? Like 10 times, 20 time investment?
Yeah.
So not only are they getting all the content from it, but it's pretty good investment for them as well. It's all crazy to me.
Yeah.
You got another Your Name here?
Yeah, I'll do one more, and we touched on it last episode, but I'll just bring it up into light, and probably be when this one airs, some of this stuff will be played out. But the men, the 23s, they get in, they're in the quarters, they play Morocco. It's a morning game here at the end of this week, and I know this will air after that. It's interesting. If they win one more game, they are guaranteed to play for a medal. I'll be interested to see how they do. Also, since our last episode, the women sweep their group. So U.S. women's soccer went from a place where coaching changed, all the world's passing us up. They completely handle their group, and they have to be the favorite going into knockout rounds. And all the scuttlebutt around our U.S. national team program, the men take care of business, and they have a chip in a chair. And you know, I don't think they've done anything yet, but kudos to both men's and women's national teams for at least bouncing back somewhat to be able to be successful.
No, I'm with you. And I'm thinking the one takeaway or the question mark from all that is, you know, because a lot of soccer's yet to be played, and we'll see how far they each go. Because on paper, realistically, the women's team has a much greater chance of, you know, not only making the medal round, but winning it all. Mm-hmm. You know, the men's side, like right now, they're in the quarterfinal. I mean, they had a pretty weak group other than France for the most part. But, you know, we'll see how far they go. Mm-hmm. One side has definitively chose, here's our leader. She is going to create our culture, and this is our style. And the style has been, we're going to go younger, we're going to go faster up top, we're going to get to goal quick, and then we're going to be, you know, more methodical across the back. Mm-hmm. You know, she's established a style, which is something that, you know, the women's team prior, what was the style? We're going to be super athletic, and we're going to run down your throat, front to back.
Yeah.
On the men's side, we still have an identity crisis, right?
We do. We absolutely do.
So depending on who the new coach is going to be, are they going to follow lead? Like establish a culture anyway.
I will. Just one note from both those teams, and she's really getting her shot now. I'm excited to see the Rodman girl. She scored today, and she's exciting to watch athletically. She's on the front foot. She's forcing the issue. That's an exciting young American player to watch. And I don't know that she necessarily got a fair shake before Emma gets here. But maybe it was just she was a little too young. But I'm glad to see her take her chance, and she's having a lot of success.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. I mean, you know, hopefully the synergy is there, and each side feeds off of, you know, what's going on, because you know, to a degree, it couldn't really get much worse. So hopefully we're turning the corner. Your name here, point of the day. My last thing is I'm going to go to our fellow show, that being Soccer Mom Sunday. I want to go backwards in time. 2 episodes back, we had the Restoviches on, starting with mom and then all 4 daughters. And, you know, on the show, we often talk about 2 coaches, 2 recruiters, 2 ex-pros. And everybody knows it. My favorite question is, what is it, right? And inevitably, we hear some form of character or competitive nature, right? Drive. That episode, for you kids listening, or if you have a a little one that plays the game and you're trying to like maybe tweak the edges and figure out something to do that isn't just juggling or touches on a wall or box jumps or whatever, listen to that episode. Because Grace in particular, who was top 8 in the country recruiting class, going to Notre Dame. She's been in the national team camp a number of times. She had an opportunity to go the same path as Alex. She chose Notre Dame. Listen to that young lady speak and her sisters and how they view competition. It's a telltale. Because we see it. We see it often, in our own boys and their peers and in the game. There's a difference between super talented kids and then super talented kids that hate to lose.
Yeah.
And the Restoviches, they hate to lose.
There's something in the water at the Restovich house.
Oh, my God, yeah. So go back, listen to that one. It's a great episode, a lot of fun. Now, what we are going to do, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking some OG soccer.
Yeah, old school.
And more soccer.
Probably has an opinion on the direction of our national team for the last 40 years.
Probably. Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, before we take a quick break, I wanted to thank Brenda Suter at suiterandco.com. Go check it out. You're looking for a place. If you're smarter than I was, where I stayed in a house that was way too small, you need a little space, hit her up. She'll help you out. St. Charles County, St. Louis County, all of the above.
Kelly and I are going out on the town with Brenda and her husband Christian Friday.
Really?
Yep.
Are you looking for houses?
I'm just looking for a bump in pay. No, I'm just kidding. They're a good time, and we're going to have a lot of fun.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break. Like, review, follow, share. All that stuff's free. Appreciate it. When we come back, it's soccer chat time. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Soccer Dad Pod. We'll be right back. Hey, Brenda.
Hi, JB.
So, you sell houses.
I do.
Do you also help buyers?
All the time.
Have you ever worked with a soccer mom who's ran out of space in bathrooms?
Well, I am a soccer mom, and all the time.
What about helping a seller get a crowd of people into battle for their home?
We're pretty good at that as well.
St. Charles County?
All of it.
St. Louis County?
SoCo to Norco.
What about the city?
Would you prefer a golf cart neighborhood or a high-rise close to City Park?
Trick question now. Can you get me close to my kids' training site?
Whether at Soccer Park or Slica, I can help.
Well, where can I get in touch?
Suiterandco.com. SOUTERandco.com.
Awesome. Well, that was easy. Let's go.
Listen up, guys. While you lay claim to the garage, the basement, and that generous little corner of the walk-in closet, let's be abundantly clear. The bathroom belongs to the ladies. The fact that there's a line in the morning means you need to think about a new one for you and the kids. So why don't you set up an adult field trip and go check out Crescent Plumbing Supply Showroom. CrescentSupply.com. Everybody wins.
We're back. This one gets me pumped up, Jared.
This one does?
Yeah.
I haven't quite got into it yet.
It's a slow roll.
It is a slow roll.
Did you ever watch Wonder Years?
Yeah. I had a crush on Winnie.
Who didn't?
Yeah.
She was awesome. Did you watch the new Wonder Years?
No, I did not.
Oh, it's hilarious.
And I liked the older brother because he was kind of like just a shit starter.
Just want to call him Chip.
Yeah.
His name wasn't
Booger.
Chip, though. Joe Cocker.
Yeah, that's a good
With
one.
a little help from my friends bringing us back in. I went with a little classic rock here because little did I know, because I didn't know. Guest walks in today and it was talking low key, hey, talk about some of the instruments here, and pointed out that I used to be in a band.
Music means something on this show.
Yeah, it means a lot. Yeah. Apparently YouTube says we can't use it, but I say, stop me. So, without further ado, our guest today is joining us down here at Dotzac Building. We got Mr. Tony Kuster. How you doing, Tony?
Great.
Oh, hold on. Try that again.
Doing great.
Doing great. It sounds a lot better when I don't have the mic muted.
Yes.
I thought that was on purpose, man.
It was going to be a really quick episode. Thanks for joining us. How you been?
Doing okay.
Yeah.
A little bit of knee pain as I get older, but I'm still trying to stay fit.
You look good.
Well, thank you.
How old are you?
Do I really? I don't want to tell you.
Older than you.
Yeah.
I'm older than you.
Knees and hips, man. We're all there. Is trying to avoid the popcorn bag. Is that kind of?
I'm trying not to get knee surgery.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure where I'm going with it yet, but let's see.
So let's get to the hard stuff first. What was the name of the band that you were in?
Chicago Fire.
Chicago Fire.
Yes.
And that was a St. Louis-based band?
We started, I think, in late 1969, and went till spring of 74.
Wow.
What instrument did you play?
Well, you were about to say what position did you play? I like
Same thing.
it.
I was a striker.
Lead
got
man.
near me, I
You were a
hit you over
striker?
the head.
So you were a drummer.
No,
I'm just kidding.
guitar player.
Guitar? Okay.
Guitar, vocals, harmonies?
Harmonies. My brother was the lead singer. And when you played the Joe Cocker song,
Yeah.
he was just awesome playing that.
Really?
Oh.
So you hit that one good.
Yeah, I mean, like my fingers were starting to...
How many groupies did you have?
On the record or off the record?
We had a following, but
So you toured, though. You told me that you went on tour and you opened for a number of bands. Who are some of the bands that you opened for?
well, I didn't know we were playing with Ted Nugent. We played out in Crystal City,
Okay.
and our last song was "Journey to the Center of Your Mind,"
Uh-huh.
and then we found out Ted Nugent was playing, and he had been listening to us.
He's like, I bet I can do that one.
Better.
Well, it was kind of embarrassing. Not that we did a bad job on it, but I felt kind of, like stupid because we were just doing the same thing he's going to be doing in a minute.
You should have invited him up. Hey, why don't you come sing this with us?
Well, he left an impression on me because all his band members were calling him, "Hey, Mr. Nugent, hey, Mr. Nugent," and I'm looking at my guys and I go, "I want you to call me Mr.
Mr. Kuster.
I can't tell you the words they said after that, but it was,
You probably didn't go over too well.
I had a great. The guys in that group were awesome. I mean, we had an engineer. I had another guitar player that was actually became a studio player out in L.A. And then I had an MD, a guy that was going to WashU, was playing with us at the same time.
Wow.
And so I had a smart group. And,
Nice.
most of them were about 4 years younger than me, and so I was kind of the leader.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think it was I put my soccer on pause, kind of, for a couple of years anyway. But it was fun. But at the same time, I think those guys needed it because they had something to do in high school.
Yeah. So, North Side, South Side, where'd you grow up?
South Side.
South Sider. And the alma mater, what was your high school?
I went to St. Mary's.
Okay.
Oh, you were Dragon too, huh?
Yeah, I did not play. Every time we had a tryout, I was hurt. Broke a nose the one time. Had Osgood Schlatter so bad. And then I had a concussion. And so I really never got to play. I tried to play my senior year coming back, and the coach goes, "I already got the team." Ironically, I played on a senior team that same year. And the coach was on the team we played in Cup, and we beat him 7-3. And then he came up to me after the game, and he goes, "Why didn't you tell me you could play?" And, I tried to convince him, but, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
So you're playing on the South Side. You're playing some club ball. Did you play college ball? Did you want to, or at what point does the rock and roll come into the mix to kind of hit that pause button?
The rock and roll thing was kind of an accident. Some guys needed some equipment, and I had some cash laying around, and I bought a PA system. So it was I was just the manager.
Yeah.
And so I wound up getting jobs. So I was on the phone every night. Anyway, like in 2 weeks, I had it set up for like 3 months.
Nice.
And back then you could do that because the CYCs had dances, the
Yep.
high school had
Yep.
dances, which you don't see that anymore. But there was a lot of activity going on. So the second job we played at a Ramada Inn, and the guitar player we had, he was really good, and I was just a basement folk guitar player, so I knew the chords and stuff like that. But I tried learning from him in 3 or 4 months that we worked together before we had our first job, and so a second job. A Ramada group bands, that toured the circuit, saw him, and he left the next day.
He got poached.
Yeah,
He got $50 and a case of beer.
yeah. So in 1 week, and we had a new bass player at the same time. So like 1 week, I had to figure out all the songs with a new bass player, and we played the following week at a St. Anne's CYC out on Natural Bridge, and it was nerve-wracking at first because I hadn't done anything like that before, but after that, it was smooth sailing. We kind of moved up the playing ladder. Got to play at a lot of college venues
Nice.
the first year already, and then we played out at Umsel with who was it? Spinners. We played out,
Sure.
with them, and we played another time out there with the Delphonics. So we were kind of an open up band for them, and it was scary because the gym was just packed.
Yeah.
And but it was we got through it, and it was a lot of fun.
It's a fun little rock and roll pause in the life, right?
Yeah.
So what at some point, obviously the band and the rock and roll dream starts to pull back, fade a little bit. What got you back into soccer?
Well, I have to go forward all the time. So we were either going to do something with the group or
Move on.
or move on. And I didn't want to keep the other guitar player. He was really good. I didn't want to, stop him from, because these guys were all pretty loyal. And then everybody was getting married. I already had my first child, and that, when you're in a basement and you hear that bass banging against the basement ceiling and the baby's upstairs, it doesn't work. And so we just had a meeting one night where we pretty much said, this would be our last gig, and it was a police party out, a county police party up on the north side somewhere.
Jeez.
And anyway, that was it, and we all became lifelong friends. Though.
That's awesome.
So back into soccer. What you left it? You did the
Well, I still played games,
yeah.
but I didn't practice, and I had to make that decision also. Do I want to, stay in soccer? And so, like my first coaching gig was at St. Joan of Arc, and John Traina conned me into coaching a 7th and 8th grade team, and so I caught the bug as far as coaching, and then so I switched my major. I was going to go into chemical engineering, and I thought, if you're going to coach, you might as well go into physical education, health, or something along that field. And eventually I had to transfer over to SIU if I wanted to do that. So I went over there for a year and talked to Coach Gelker about playing, and he said, "Yeah, I can give you a scholarship for 1 year because of I had limited eligibility."
Mm-hmm.
And so I played 1 year there, and about 2/3 of that I was injured.
Did you play in the Bronze Boot game that year?
No,
You did not?
no.
Okay.
My ankle was about 8 inches wide.
It looked like a grapefruit.
I don't know if you remember Fran Costello.
I do not remember that name, no.
He played at the University of Florida, but he was a North Sider. He got me pretty good. We played on at Sluice Field, and I thought my ankle was broke. But 4 days later, Bud Bedell over at SIU, he taped me up. He said, go out and run 4 miles. And it took me an hour and a half, but I was able to do it.
So, you're kind of looking at some of the little bit of the background. I mean, you played for a lot of teams, a lot of amateur teams, and bouncing around. You had the stint. What exactly was the taxi squad for the St. Louis Stars? What did that consist of?
I think they made that up after they kept. It was supposed to be a reserve team.
Okay.
So, how that all transpired, they had like a big tryout over in Cahokia. They had a Parks Air College.
Yep.
So like there's 200 people there show up, for a tryout, and you were standing around most of the time, and then you got out, you played a little bit, and then you came off the field. Anyway, at the end of the first session, the first day, that was on a Saturday, I think, and Gutendorf, the coach, he goes, I want to see you, and he picked out like about 20 guys. So I'm just kind of looking around, and I'm going like, there's no way he could see everybody, Yeah. So he said, I want to see you guys tomorrow. So I showed up on Sunday also. So the first thing he did is come up to me, and he goes, did I ask you to come back? I said, absolutely. And so, we had the tryout thing again, with the 20 people, and we did scrimmage and whatnot. And anyway, afterwards, he goes, I don't know if I want you back, because he had some other professionals there. He had a couple guys from Romania were there, and he had some Jamaicans that were there. And so I said, well, I'll come back anyway. How about that? So he said, fine. And so I had a good day on that Monday and a good practice on Tuesday. And the other guys stopped showing up. And so it was just me and like one or two other guys. And eventually they stopped coming also because they weren't getting paid or anything.
Yeah.
I was doing it for the, just the experience to learn. And I did learn a lot. A lot of it, how to deal with personalities from abroad, because it wasn't, they didn't exactly treat you nice all the time.
Was Gary Rensing on the team at that time?
No.
He was not? Was it before Gary?
Yeah. I played with Gary later on at a tournament up in, so I got to know him.
Yeah, and you coached with him for a long time too. Right?
I had a team for a long time, and Gary called me up. He was in St. Dominic's Parish.
Okay.
And he goes, hey, I got a couple kids, He goes,
yeah.
he goes, can I help you? And I said, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And so we had a good relationship, for several years on the coaching side. The only time I remember ever getting in an argument is when we played a cup semifinal, or it might have been no, I think it was a semifinal. It was against Scott Gallagher.
Okay.
And Matt McCune was on the team, and Matt played for me later on in ODP. So I didn't really, I knew his brother, but I didn't know Matt. Anyway, like we were losing like 3-0 into the second half, and Gary goes, "Man, we got to do something here." And I'm going like, what do you want me to do? I can't play for him. So I put this player in, and he wasn't a starter all the time, but I put him in, and Gary goes, "Yeah, what are you putting him in for?" And I go, "Well, we've kind of used everybody else, so we might as well see, let's see what happens." So I'll be dang. He gets in there. Somebody takes a shot, and the kid's name was Mike, and Mike ducks. It hits off his back, and the ball kind of hooks over the goalie.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, we got a goal. 3 or 4 minutes later, there was another shot, and it hits him upside the head, and it goes into the goal. All of a sudden, it's 2.
It's great coaching.
Yeah, lucky coaching. And so, anyway, we got into overtime, and Cliff Polite played for us at that time. And
Vianney.
yeah, I knew Cliff's dad fairly well, and Cliff wanted to play with us, and I just knew he wasn't going to stay with us because his dad was a baseball player and everything.
Yeah. So was Cliff?
Yeah, Cliff was Cliff approached me later on. He goes, I don't know whether to stay with baseball or soccer. And I said, well, let me watch you play baseball. So I went and watched him play, and I told him, I said, yeah, you need to play baseball. He said, there ain't no money in soccer right now. So anyway, we got into overtime, and Cliff scores a diving head ball.
And you guys win the game.
We win the game.
Wow.
I just remember all these parents coming down from the stands. They were livid. I mean, they were mad. And, we wound up winning the cup that year.
So, and we'll get into this coaching throughout your career. Missouri Youth Soccer Association, which is the acronym's MISA, as you know. How many years did you spend with MISA?
From, 1980 to 98.
So a lot of your career in MISA, was that coaching education in MISA, like doing licensing classes?
I did that, yeah. Licensed about 12,000 coaches.
Wow.
In that time frame. And then we did Olympic development. And then I would go around and train like the ODP teams in the various districts. And then I also had it set up where we had the exact image of the state coaching staff in each district. So Kansas City had a head district coach. And
Kansas City had soccer?
Yeah. Well, I mean, one of my job descriptions was to spread the word of soccer.
Yeah.
So like Kansas City had things going on, but I never understood it because they didn't have real leagues like we had it here.
Yeah.
And but they had a lot of little, smaller leagues in all the different areas. And the guy I put in charge of it at the time, he did a great job of, creating a good staff there. And most of those guys wound up getting C licenses. So they already went through the state program and then got a national license. Springfield, I helped get that off the ground.
That's cool.
Yeah, we had a staff down there, and then we had a staff in Columbia. The thing is, a lot of it was recreational, and then there always seemed to be this conflict between recreational and competitive soccer. And I don't know why that distinction was, such a big deal.
Well, I mean, it's almost as if that's just continues. It's just different iterations of that is front and center now. Back then, it would have been the rec versus club or rec versus select.
Yeah.
And then you have select versus club.
Right.
And now you have club. You have academy versus high school. Right. Back in the day, because it was kind of a sweet spot, in St. Louis soccer history. The high school, you had the usual powerhouses. I mean, we just talked about Coach Vitello the other day. Just met at the time because Matt McEwen.
Right.
They were winning state titles, CBC.
Well, his boys all went to CBC, and he's very close with probably.
Yeah.
I would imagine you're pretty close with Terry, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, I know Terry real well.
Yeah.
But my point is like you're coaching and you're getting into kind of expanding your own career within coaching at a time in which soccer was really growing. Soccer was always big here, but in the late 80s and 90s in particular, more clubs, bigger clubs, more facilities. Did you see it coming? Did you know that, because it came fast. Where we go from, the singular field that's at the parish or at the church or in the public park or whatever to 4 field complexes. And then obviously Soccer Park had the 2 turf fields in field 1. Being a coach and having your finger on the pulse at that time, what was different? Why do you think there was such an explosion here during that time frame?
Well, there were a lot of explosions. Like this in the 70s, you still had senior soccer was big, right? Mm-hmm. I had my first coaching job at Sacred Heart out in Crystal City.
Okay.
And I did that for 4 years while I was teaching there. But like 3 of those years, we got to the CYC finals. And But that was a lot of that was I just had some good athletic kids,
Okay.
and they picked it up quick. But let's go from there to like 1978, and I kind of lost touch with St. Louis soccer a little bit. Even though we played senior soccer, but I had no idea the youth stuff was expanding like it was. And all of a sudden, 1980, I find there's clubs everywhere, you know, and well, in '78, I took a Bush team with my uncle, Henry Kuster, and we had some great players on there, and we played well too. I mean, I had a good style for them, and a couple of those kids went on to play D1 soccer, and still some of the Ivy League schools, they were still giving out scholarships. So I had this Brian O'Gorman. I bumped into he coached at the coach that eventually took Brian was at Princeton, and I met him at a convention, and I told him, I said, I got just the guy for you. He's got a 4.0, a great midfielder. Anyways, Dad sent me a case of beer every year for like 5-6 years.
That's awesome.
At Christmas time, the case of beer was there. And so like that group did well. And then I kind of, I didn't do anything right away. And I had this, I was teaching at St. Boniface. I took somebody's place for a year and a half that took a leave of absence, and got to know some of the kids there. About a year after that, I had a business going, a sporting business, and about a year after that, I had this guy come into my place, Ron Schuchart.
Okay.
He was friends with Val Pellizzaro, Harry Keogh, and whatnot, and this kid was in my class at St. Boniface. Anyway, he came in, he wanted to buy some uniforms. Before he left, I got conned into coaching this team he had, and I hadn't even seen the guys. So on that team, we had Tommy Unger, the Mihaljevics, Terry Brown. These guys were all in my class at St. Boniface. I had no idea these guys could play.
Yeah.
All I knew is they were all good athletes and very fast, quick off the mark. And, when I used to make I'd comment to them, how come you're so fast? Well, the cops are always chasing us around the neighborhood, And
Life skills.
Yes. And so I had a good combination of players there. So I had like the kind of the St. Mary's crowd, a Southside crowd, and I had Craig Westbrook was on this team.
One of the Westbrooks, yeah.
Pierre, and then I had John Schmidt was on there, Vinny. I just had a nice group of kids. Yeah. And but they were used to playing one way, and it took me a good year.
Well, you heard us talking in the open when we were talking about U.S. soccer and the women's team and culture and style and what Emma Hayes is doing for the women, and then the lack of coach identity / style on the men's side, TBD. Back then, in hindsight now, given that there's so much soccer, there's so much info and insight and analysis where, just like, not that anybody cares about our analysis, but we were noticing style differences. When you think back to that time, can you see yourself, or do you remember that, did you have a style, or were you looking for just athletes? Was it about just character, or what was your coaching kind of litmus?
I think if you ask any of my players that I've had on any team, it's almost always kind of the same style. And style for me is a big deal, a real big deal. It's what's going to distinguish you from everybody else. The thing is, what I have a problem with today is if you watch almost any English team, they all play the same way pretty much. They all try to do the same thing. They go down the line and try to dump the ball in. I've kind of realized over the last couple of years, especially as I see other teams from other countries, the top 3 teams are the only teams that are usually different. Everybody else in that league usually plays the same way. So now you better have the bigger athletes, the better athletes as far as physically.
Yeah.
You got
people that can cover ground and win second balls and body people.
Yeah, and you can do okay with that. Mm-hmm. And then you have somebody around, like Klopp, who he does the same thing Fran Rich did to win 3 national titles with Imo's Pizza. He pressured the heck out of the other team.
Yeah. And when they get it, they go to goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what's nice, Klopp inherited, nice players. Then he found a few other players to fit in. You have to have some technical players. And what I don't get is why the rest of the teams haven't figured that out. And now you got everybody going, well, you know what, I want to play like Klopp.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the name Klopp. So JB, I think, was going down this road with the U.S. men's program. And just knowing of you and knowing some of your peers and acquaintances, you haven't been a big fan of the recent history of our U.S. men's national or U.S. soccer in general and the direction it's going. We can dissect this a little bit more, but who the coach, the hiring of the next coach, how important is that, and who is your guy with the names that are out there?
That's it's a catch-22. Historically, I'm looking back to the late 80s. We had picked a Missouri team, senior team, that we took to Kentucky that I coached, and I had all the best players in town. That were I had Hantak as a striker, Ray Schneckecke was playing, Chris Kenny was playing, Terry Brown was on there, Miramonte was on there, Paul Miller, Paul Canton. I had speed. We beat all the other regions by no less than 10 goals.
Wow.
We had 2 players selected.
Because that's U.S. soccer. Spreading the wealth to the coast, and why would they not select the whole team?
It was soccer.
Is that what you're getting at?
Soccer socialism is what it was.
Okay.
And Ted wound up making a national team. Hantek did, and then I don't know, somebody else did or not. Tim Miramonte, he played on the youth national teams, and then I had a couple of the other guys, but that did stuff on the youth teams, but. Fast forward here, how are we going to, first of all, you got to have an ideology, a philosophy that's going to fit in with our culture. The problem is our culture is kind of messed up right now as well. We're not sure what we are culturally all the time with soccer.
Well, I think ultimately, if we're going to go geopolitical here on this, the reality is we are a nation that is a bouillabaisse, right? So how do you really? Well,
I don't have any problem with that. The South American Player of the Year, Cubillas. He was pretty much ousted right out of here. And how good of a coach was the guy? I don't know. The difference between a coach and a player is like somebody brewing beer and somebody drinking beer. It's 2 different things. And people assume if you're a good player, you're a good coach. It doesn't work like that.
Well, and here's the other thing too. We've had spans of talent and to a degree certain successes. Specifically at the national team level. Brad's team, right? The 2014 did really well. There's been Gold Cups, etc. But here we are sitting on arguably I don't care the generational debates I find foolish, because how can you compare the whole Tyson versus Ali, right? You can't do that because it's 2 different worlds.
But you can't compare the tactics.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I think that given our talent pool, starting with Christian Pulisic, right? And, go on down the list, the fact that we are not striking, fire. We're not getting the results.
In metrics, we're going backwards, it seems.
It absolutely. So I guess my question to you is, and then we'll take a quick break, from a coaching perspective, and I've talked to a lot of other coaches that, some of the old guard, they're like, oh, you got to have an American coach. And then you have a few that are like, oh, we'll take any coach. And then you have a camp that's like, let's go spend the money and let's go get a Klopp or let's go get a Mourinho. In your perfect world, if you got the checkbook, and you can pick a name, whether they're taken or not, what who would be the name specifically because of maybe their style that you would like to see our players play?
Well, we had that kind of a coach once before. Karl-Heinz Hedergott was here in the 80s, and they couldn't get rid of him fast enough because of the college political coaches.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want him here. Yet he was probably one of the most influential coaches as far as how he touched everybody here in the U.S. because he had a different approach. If we can find somebody along that guideline, like, I don't know what kind of guy Klopp is. If he was that involved in the German coaching schools, he might be the right guy. As far as, like Rinus Michels, he was involved in the Dutch coaching schools, but so he was not just an academic, he was a practical coach also.
Well, let me ask you just a simple question, and then we're going to take that break. I'm going to name a handful of countries/styles, and you get to pick the one you would like. Would you prefer a Brazilian style, an English style, a German style, or maybe a Dutch style?
I don't know what a German style is anymore after the last couple of World Cups, to be honest with you.
And the Dutch style is evolving. It's not what it once was.
Well,
No,
I'm talking traditional.
Yeah,
I mean, we know kind of typically.
The best soccer I've ever seen is always from 1968 to about 1976. Great. You had Brazil, great soccer, total soccer. Holland, total soccer. Germany,
Platini, the
total
French.
soccer. Well, that came later on. Then there was like this. So, something happened for 10 years. It just went down the tube. And then at the '86, you could see Maradona was going to be a player, but not only that, you could see the style evolving of how Brazil played. It was like the old days of Brazil again.
Do you prefer the creative flow or the disciplined?
It's got to be about improvisation based around
Keeping the ball.
Yeah, you got to be able to keep the ball, but at the same time, you have to know how to combine to strike, and that's a serious problem. The way, if you look at how to teach tactics to coaches to be able to teach that, it's not easy because it requires some understanding. Like I always say, you have the space theory: find space, make space, use space. And then, be able to score doing that.
Yep.
If you can't do that, then you're just playing, 1950s basketball, where you had two falls.
Playing keep away.
Yeah.
Or trying to play keep away.
And then the other team scores more goals.
Yeah, and you have to be able to penetrate.
Yeah. Hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk youth soccer a little bit more on that side of the fence. Soccer Dad Pod, like, review, follow, share. We'll be right back after this one. See ya. Music at the Intersection will be a 2-day jam-packed music festival with an abundance of food, beverage, and merch vendors throughout. 2-day passes start at just $175, 1-day passes at $95, $40 for kids 12 to 17, and those under 12, free. Go to musicattheintersection.org to get your tickets and be part of the party in historic Grand Center. Shaker. Egg shaker. What's that face?
That's terrible.
Oh, we're back. Soccer Dad Pod. Rolling us in with a little free-for-all. What do you think, Tony? A little Ted Nugent for you?
Ted Nugent would be all right.
Oh, man. I got a follow-up question from the beginning when we were talking about the rock and roll. If your band was 69 to 74, and clearly you loved music prior to that, you had probably jamming in the basement doing your whole thing. How cool was it, or how important was it to you, or did you even think about it at the time, or do you think about it now, growing up in St. Louis with KC 95 on the airwaves?
Well, we actually used to go out there in Crestwood.
Yeah.
And we'd bug them.
Did you like put the band in the back of a truck and pull up in front of the studio window?
We heard kids would go out there and pull pranks on them and stuff.
Yeah.
But they were by that. There used to be a drive-in theater there. I think. Is that right?
Yeah. Well, I think it was literally like 1 block down or 2 blocks down from exactly where that McDonald's is now. That has that famous David Lee Roth photo where he's holding the McDonald's.
Yeah.
That was in Crestwood. They were on a visit to the KC studios.
Yeah. KC was big in my mind back then.
Yeah.
Because I think, what was the big station? KXOK was a big station back then. Mm-hmm. But we all listened to KC because they had all the newer stuff on. And
so do you have like a closet loaded with like old Kudos gear and Sweetmeat hoodies?
No, not really. I do have a bunch of old albums. Back then you had if you wanted to learn a song, you had to buy the album or buy a 45.
Yeah.
So we still have a whole box of those.
And then just play it slowly over and over and over again. Hey, we were talking before we went to the break, about potential coaches based on style, etc. And given your years of experience and kind of your viewpoint on the game and sitting in the front row doing what you did, I want to talk a little bit about the current, quote, state of the union of youth soccer clubs, and just start generically. When you zoom out and you look at it right now, the super clubs and the facilities and all the training, and you're seeing a diminishing number of parent coaches.
What the coaches are making now, and what you didn't make.
Yeah, I mean, there's even
30 years you coached.
The financial part of it. But when you look at the kind of the landscape, you grade it. Is it a, oh my God, we're killing it, it's A+, or no, we got a lot of work, we're a solid C? Where do you see it today?
That I think about that every night. It's troubling in one way. In the other way, we're making a ton of players. The problem is how good are those players becoming, and how good, can they fit into almost any program? Because if you play a Michigan club or a Wisconsin club, they're not going to play like we played on here.
No.
They're going to send longer balls. They're going to play physical. It's just, it's a different game. The thing is, how with our area, I'm concerned about St. Louis kids. Obviously, because I see how we play here and I see the potential.
Nothing wrong with that.
No, I don't think so. But I think I've had probably a good 20, 30 players through the years, could have played anywhere in the world. And I can justify that because I've been to Europe. I've seen, I've worked with European coaches. I don't know if you guys remember Detmar Kramer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
We were good friends, and also Renus Bickles, I got to know him real well. These guys are all great coaches and everything. The problem is we had a chance to get Mickles, and then we had Kramer in the 70s, and we found out that he didn't have a contract, and he took off, and they tried to sue him. And he goes, well, you can't sue me. You didn't give me a contract. And he was the guy that set up our coaching school system. And we don't have that set up now the way it was. And the way it was really much better. I feel it was. Because it didn't try to tell you, this is the way it has to be done. You can't do that in a coaching field because then everybody gets stalled because you're all doing the same thing. So what's the difference? So you want an avenue where you give them the basic format, and the format's always the same. You got 4 components of soccer: fitness, technique, tactic, and the psychological dimension. And those 4 components, you have to revolve the game around those. And the thing is, if you start going, that just gives you your basic background, and you can play around with it. Mm-hmm. And that's what makes coaches different.
Well, let me. I want to ask you a question about those 4 pillars because I think Jared would probably agree with me. When you look at the 4, I would argue that kids today, they've got the technical side, the juggling, dribbling. They can do a lot of stuff with the ball at their feet. And I would say that they probably have the physical side. They're a little faster, they jump a little higher, they can do a lot of that stuff. So looking at the tactical side, the decision-making process, and then the emotional or the psychological side on drive or approach or recovery, mental.
That really
recovery.
ties all 3 of them together.
Yeah. When you look at the last 2, tactical and mental, what do you see? Why do you think that we as a nation, from a soccer developing, producing nation, why are we seeing not enough kids excelling in the tactical and the mental side?
Because we're always trying to copy somebody else. When volleyball was really getting underway here, one of the problems the volleyball people had was we were copying what the Japanese were doing or what the Russians were doing. And then, anyway, that all changed. And all of a sudden we were a powerhouse within a short period of time because we didn't follow what they, we didn't want to copy the Japanese, so we did something different.
We created our own identity.
Yeah. And we need to do that. Culturally, as a people, we're diverse. We have we're just different than any other country in the world.
Especially the landmass, the geography of it.
Yeah, so we should be taking advantage of that. The thing is, if you pick a top 20 players, you can probably pick another top 20 player somewhere else, out on the West Coast or 20 on the East Coast. The thing is, how do you get the best together? And it's easy to do in Germany. I helped with a regional training over there, and everybody got there, like in 3 or 4 hours. That was the maximum drive for most of the kids. And so, they spend a weekend there, and it's kind of a funny story. It was a U14 team, and they invited this little 12-year-old kid, and everybody the coaches were all bragging about how good this kid is. So they got all the players together, and they introduced this kid, and right after they went on to the other stations, one of the big kids, the big U14, he turned around and spit right in the guy's face. Anyway, that kid couldn't function right the rest of that practice because he was kind of intimidated. And but the kid came back next day, no problem. He looked great the next day. But that's how competitive it gets there. And you might say, well, that kind of competitiveness, but if you're going to be successful, you have to have players that have the temperament to want to compete, and but doing it the right way. The thing is, I think we do a lot of things like that the right way.
What do you think? Oh, excuse me. What do you think about the perceived imbalance? There's a lot of arguments out there that we have gone off the deep end from a quote player development standpoint. And we're developing a lot of players that can do a lot of cute, cool stuff, but they don't know how to win. Would you agree with that statement? And if so or not, how do we get kids to compete so that carries over at the highest level?
It sounds like a real simple question with a real simple answer, but it's
Right.
not. It's not.
No, it really isn't.
All I can do is tell you. I've had some really good strikers play for me through the years, and I have a formula kind of, but the formula is always the same. You have to put players under pressure, time, space, tempo, confusion, opponent. I mean, you have to train under those situations. So if you're out there, dilly-dallying around with the ball and making a lot of fancy moves, that's great. But if you don't have somebody trying to kill you while you're doing it, you're not going to be able to do
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It's like those guys on socials, the freestylers.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's all great and dandy until somebody tries,
Yeah.
sliding in, with cleats up.
Well, let's go to this. JB often asks this question in the show, and I'm going to kind of do a hybrid of it.
are you poaching?
A little bit. I'm poaching. You have coached for many years in this town, and you mentioned how you love the St. Louis player, and you specifically talked about the striker. And I know some of the kids and played against them and saw them play and know of their pedigree. Can you give me and maybe arrow it, like do it like in arrows? Who are the top 3 strikers that you actually touched, coached? Where are those guys at? And I think I know one of them, but I'd like to just hear from you, and then JB will frame his question after you kind of give us those names.
Top 3 strikers. That's a good one. I have to put my own kid on one of that is Eric.
Yeah.
Eric he put on a demonstration when he was down in Florida. Renus Mickels saw him. Mm-hmm. And Renus said, this is the best player I've ever seen in the U.S. And he scored 3 goals in that game. One was a diving header. One was an outside of the foot shot with a curve with the outside. They went in the far bar. I mean, it looked like a Cruyff shot. Mm-hmm. And anyway, after the game, Mickels met with all the coaches, and nobody could identify the goals. It was like, but they did see, the one striker that could probably run like 4.340.
Yeah.
And it's not that Eric was slow, but he
had 5 tools.
Yeah.
So after Eric, who's next?
I'd have to, there's a kid that nobody would know, Paul Schroeder, who played for Tom Holmes.
Okay.
Paul could shoot on the move.
Okay.
He had a 4.2
Yeah.
40.
Okay.
And I had another kid, Paul Cantoni, could do the same thing. But Paul didn't really know how to combine with anybody.
Okay.
So Terry Brown and Craig Westbrook and these guys, they would maneuver the play, and all of a sudden it'd be a through ball, and the light bulb would go on Paul Schroeder's head, and boom, he'd take off. And he didn't walk the ball in, but he could shoot on the move. And, he'd get a couple goals every game.
All right.
And that kind of player we don't have.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid to shoot, or they don't get the right situation to shoot, or they're banking for head balls. And another good striker I had that did real well was Terry Brown.
Okay.
Terry Brown was an excellent striker. Mike Slavinsky was probably right up there at the top.
Yeah.
Him and like my other son Tony, he played on the same team. Mike would take the lead and almost always get the first goal, and then Tony would want to get the second one. So them two were like in competition. It's like in the Cup final the one year, I think Mike got 3 or 4 goals, and then Tony got 3 or 4 goals, and they were
in a Cup final.
Yeah.
So when you think back to those players, because there's always certain memories, games, et cetera, that stand out that probably, solidify those opinions of the players. In the version of the question is where Jared started, and I'll kind of wrap it up. When you look for that thing, right? When you've got a new group of kids, you say you got ODP kicks off, all the states have filtered it out. Now you're in the Midwest, kids come into camp, and it's day one, and you just start pairing them off 8v8s across the board. When you're looking at these kids, for you, what was the thing that was like that checked the box? Like you're looking for that it. What did you like to see in a player? Just in the free flow of a training or a game.
That separated all those guys apart from everybody
where
else.
you could look at them and be like, okay, that's a special player.
Temperament.
Really?
Temperament is a big deal. If you can have all the skill, if you don't have the temperament to want to go in there and finish the job, you don't find it everywhere. Players, they shoot too early, or I tell players, to walk the ball in if you can. And I don't literally mean to walk it in, but get close enough to score. To make it an easy goal.
Yeah. Okay, so I know exactly
Tell me
what you're-
how.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, because what you're describing, like, we've all seen it. We know it. When you have a player that is technically skilled, but legitimately afraid of the play, afraid to actually do everything they need to do to score, what do? They shoot from 25. They shoot from 30, right? They get the head of steam. How would you coach that out of somebody, though? Or can you? Or is it something that you're looking that is just kind of that mental aspect that has to be baked in?
Oh, you can do it. You just need enough time with them. I've always practiced with the team I had with Grossman. That team, we went 4 days a week, so we didn't.
How much you get paid to coach that team?
Zero.
You got paid in beers and wins.
Well, I had my own camps going on at the time too, though. So and I worked high school and stuff like that. But
that's a lot of time, 4 days a week to develop those kids like in the manner that you did. I think maybe that's another thing that's missing in our game. It's all become so monopolized in the guys that coached the game like you guys did in the past for the passion and the love of it. There's a lot to be said there.
Well, for sure. I always figured like you have to dig ditches to get down to the bottom of the ditch, and for me, it wasn't an issue. It didn't always sit right with my wife, but I always tried to plan things where I could coach right after school. So at least I had the evenings home with the kids, and then we'd be in the hallway playing soccer when I got home. But you mentioned also the other thing about strikers. My youngest son Sean, he played at CBC also. They won a state title.
Nice,
but. Sean played on a team, on a senior team, and he got like 5 or 6 goals. And the coach came up to him and said, "You're going to have to let some of the other guys score too." And I kind of looked at him like,
no.
Well, it's not that he did, he didn't lay it off or anything, but like Sean was another one. He was a good striker. He went over to Croatia also, scored a winning goal the first day he got over there where the team won the tournament.
Wow.
But to make somebody like that, you got to grow up like in my family or be exposed to the same consistent thing on a regular basis. So like when they were kids, we were in the backyard beating the crap out of each other, trying to beat me or same with my daughter. I had a daughter that played at Maryville Heidi. Mm-hmm. She married Rick Binbin's son.
Okay. Small world.
Yeah, and
It's small world.
small world. In fact, when she called me about hey, she met this guy Matt Binbin, and I'm going like
Ben.
I used to go
There's not a lot of those.
I used to go over to Rick's house and saw this little kid going around. It was Matt.
Wow.
And I said, well, I'm sure he's a soccer player. So,
That's okay with me then.
yeah, no problem.
So now at this point, kind of in your own career / retirement / life, when it comes to soccer, what do you gravitated towards? Are you a fan of that Saturday Sunday morning EPL? Who's your team, or do you prefer? Are you an MLS fan? Do you wait for Saturday night to try and flip through Apple Plus? What part of the game, or what style of the game, or what league or teams do you watch? Because you have
grandkids?
You have tens of thousands of hours of soccer in front of your eyeballs and in your brain. What checks the boxes for you now?
Well, I still coach a couple teams, so I have a little girls team. They're U11s, and I couldn't resist. I just got finished with a group of girls, and they wound up being really nice. Really nice team. I got some of them are playing D1, and 2 of them are in the national player pool, and so like that turned out real well.
Which club was that with?
That was a Scott Gallagher team.
Okay, cool.
So, like when they went into college, I didn't have anything going on, and a former player of mine, Jimmy Holman, he'd been bugging me for 4 or 5 years to coach his kids, and he called me up the day after we stopped playing with the other girls, and I said, he asked me, and I said, well, I'll take a look at him. So anyway, I looked at him, and kind of rough, but here we are the second year, and they're looking. We're going on our third year now. Anyway, we're looking pretty good.
Nice.
Individually, anyway. So we'll see what happens. And then there's a boys team, and I think I got 4 or 5 players that can play anywhere in the world if they do the right stuff. And I look at a lot of these teams. We play. There's some. You see talent, and then you're going like, if they're not in the right situation, nothing's going to happen. Mm-hmm. That bothers me. But then the expectation from parents, and then the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
I always hear these stories about St. Philip Neri, and I didn't know much about them, growing up. But the culture up there produced some players.
Well, that's the other part of the equation that I was really curious as to kind of what you think or what your take is on it in today's environment, and that is the role / expectation of parents in 2024. Given obviously the popularity of the game, everybody's an expert. Everybody's watching or has picked their EPL team. The sidelines are different than they were 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
With the parents today, as kids come through, do you just stay out of the mix, or how are you forced to engage and say, hold your horses, let's get a little reality check, or do you let other people do it? What's your take on parents?
I'm pretty blunt. When it comes to parents, I'm pretty blunt with them. I just tell them, hey, if you don't like it, don't come. I think you can make a player out of almost any kid if they really want to be a player to begin with. The thing is, the opportunities, not everybody can play all in the same club. Yeah. And, that's why you got, so many, we've got a lot of big clubs here. Mm-hmm. And I can't tell you how good they are. Like Kenny Godad would train next to us a lot of times. Like, when I saw some of his results, I mean, it was awesome. Yeah. Kenny does. He does a really good job, and I'm thinking, like, I see 5 or 6 players there that are better than anything I've seen in Germany, and so is that going to happen? Are we going to see them on a national team, and are we going to see them, on the local professional team? That's the part that bothers me is. I just think we lose a lot of kids that we shouldn't be losing. We don't know what happens to them. It's just, they have different interests because somebody didn't say, hey, I think you can play.
Yeah, I mean, I find that, like, it's really I don't even know what you want to call it. We are so big, right? We have so many clubs. We have MLS Next Academies. We've got, ECNL, and like, where does it stop? So,
and a lot of those kids probably shouldn't even be playing at some of the levels that they're supposedly playing at.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, you're a St. Louis guy through and through. Talk a little bit about what's your opinion on the standoff / worldview of academy versus high school, and value to kids.
Well, high school. Like Terry and Greg and some of them they got this Champions League together.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I see that as, well, if you're not going to, the college coaches, if you're not going to come and watch us play, we'll just make a better product and advertise it, and you'll come and watch us play.
Bingo, right? I love. Are you excited for the Champions League for these guys?
Absolutely.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, it's another venue. And I don't have any problems, on the other side too. But if you're playing academies are only as good as the system that they have within the academy. which I have a little bit of a problem with how they're doing that here because.
Well, let me ask your opinion on this. And he who shall not be named, I won't. We were quoted by a high-level Division I coach that was basically like, we were debating the value of academies that do not produce, that do have awful win-loss records, etc. And their comment was pretty straightforward. They're like, look, I'm not recruiting a team. I'm looking for the one player, right? And in these environments, even if it is a team that is underperforming or not getting the wins, or on paper, like everybody's suggesting, oh, you should not be in MLS Next, these college scouts are looking for one or two or three of these kids that maybe fit a player profile
Right.
or a position. What is that? How does that make you feel when you hear kind of that feedback from a coach like that? Because for us, I'll put us in the same boat here. I miss the competition. I miss the drive. I miss kind of the desire for the team to be better. But in some cases, that's not the goal. The goal is individual placement. What do you think about that?
I guess you're referring to these businesses that try to place kids.
Well,
colleges.
No, I'm talking about academies. Just there's a camp that says there are too many MLS Next academies.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And the reply, one of the arguments against those that don't like the expansion of academy is straight from the horse's mouth. These recruiters, these colleges are saying, these kids that are going there, if their goal is to play college soccer, they might have a better chance being on a subpar academy team, but being the standout and being in these environments than going to be the number one player on a high school team where we may or may not show up to watch.
Right. Well, I thought the original concept of the academy teams was to basically bring players up to play on the professional team at some level, right? Mm-hmm. Apparently that's not it, though.
Well,
it's just another way to make play. It's like a minor league for the colleges again.
Yeah.
And so, what's the point? If I was doing an academy team, it would have to be directly in line with the coach that's doing the main team, the professional team. So if you're going to bring a coach here, or any professional team, and he's only there for a couple of years, what was the point of the academy team? What did you exactly teach? His technical skills or the tactics of the coach that was here at the time? That always confused me, because you'd have like when Pep was at Bayern Munich, did they change the whole Bayern Munich system? I think not.
No. They're pretty good at their academy.
Right, and the same with Barcelona,
right.
and Real, and I'm not that knowledgeable about how the English do their academy teams, but I know like West Ham actually produces a lot of the better players, and they sell them, mm-hmm. and then they have to buy them back later on if they get really good.
Or a Flamengo or a Boca in South America.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that becomes a money issue at the professional level.
Do you think that maybe we should simply rephrase or reframe the analysis of these academies and not kid ourselves that the academies are set up to send everybody to pro, that the reality is it is ultimately a feeder for the collegiate level?
That's what it looks like to me.
Well, but I also think in the academy's defense, and I'm not defending them by any means, but I will say this, that, okay, if you are a professional franchise and you have 25 people on your first team, and you have this whole youth academy coming up, even the 1% of that youth academy are going to be pros. So, it's unfair to say that if you are in a youth academy that you're going to be a pro. I mean, you're just starting in that youth academy. So I think, if you're taking a St. Louis City or a Columbus Crew or even these MLS academies that are years and decades behind all these other academies globally, if they hit on 1 or 2 or 5 of those kids that they directly brought through their youth academies,
that's payday.
And they either become stars on their team, that's a win-win, or if they can sell those kids. So I don't think the goal ever is to develop the whole first team out of your academy.
No.
but nobody's telling them that it's not the case.
Well, but I mean, who needs to tell who anything? I mean, isn't that just reality?
Well, you'd think that, but
Yeah, that would make sense. Like if people could just accept the reality of the current situation.
Yeah, I mean,
because numbers
remember,
are numbers.
I remember when ECNL first started, like this is where we're going to pick up our top players and this and that. Well, that's not the case anymore, is it?
Right.
Or is it?
I mean, I think there's top players in all these
There is.
different leagues.
Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, that's the point. Yeah, I think there's top players in high school. There's top players in ECNL. There's top players in GA. I mean, all these acronyms. But I think that there's enough kids playing the game that all of these places can exist. I mean, I don't know what the scuttlebug is.
I mean, they're out there playing.
Oh, I mean,
there's nobody folding.
it shouldn't be a direct competition.
Yeah.
Because there's enough kids that want to play academy. There's enough that want to do the ECNL, and quite frankly, there's a lot of kids that don't want to do the travel, or they can't do the travel, can't afford the
pricey.
travel. Oh yeah.
We haven't even touched on that. I mean,
Yeah.
Pay to play is what it is. I mean, the simplistic argument for it is power, referees, facilities, plumbing. That's not free, right? So you got to pay something along those lines. But in parting, before we take off here, what's your favorite thing of being a coach? Just simplistically, we've gotten into the weeds on mindset and a bunch of other stuff. But your whole life has been on the sidelines in training with tens of thousands of kids. Why? Why do you do it?
I mean, you got the satisfaction part, but I can't wait to see how good they are by the time they hit 18, 19, 20.
Yeah.
That's
exciting.
Yeah, that really is. So like I have this Gabby Schlapper. She's down at Springfield, and she's in the player pool. But like I remember when she came out, and one of the parents goes, "That gal's too small." She was like 10 years old, and she was the smallest kid on the team. But I'm looking at how does she maneuver? Look at her coordination, her balance, her agility,
A body movement.
Yeah, and you know what? She turned out to be everything I knew she would become, and that's gratifying.
Yeah, that's satisfaction.
It is, and I've had a lot of kids. A lot of the kids I've had, even the ones that didn't necessarily, make it big time or anything. I still enjoyed. I enjoyed having them, and I enjoyed how they related to everybody else on the team. And,
Damon Rensing told me that he was probably the best player that you ever coached.
If he can say that with a straight face, I'll believe it.
Hey, Coach Kuster, Tony Kuster, thank you so much for joining us, man.
Oh, this has been a pleasure, really.
I appreciate you joining us because it's like you've affected a lot of people's lives because actually I came your way through Halsey. Halsey was the one. Oh man, you got to get Kuster on. You got to get Tony.
Well, and then just a feather in your cap. There are multiple of our peers, multiple people that we've met doing this. Some older, majority of them older than me, that speak so highly of you that you are arguably one of the best coaches ever to come out of St. Louis. So that's really cool.
Well, thank you. That's an honor that you would say that. Thank you.
Well, hey, you're welcome back anytime. We'll stay in touch. Thanks for joining us. We really appreciate the stories and the insight, and really wish you the best of luck. You got teams this fall, obviously, a couple of them.
The girls team, little girls team.
Awesome. Yeah. So you're going down. So you're taking the U11s.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that. Everybody goes, well, why aren't you doing like some upper level group?
Yeah.
The problem is you need to do a good job at the young.
Yeah.
Move young
through
kids, and I like this group that I have, and my wife's very supportive as far as letting me do it. And
is she cutting the oranges and bringing the sun-kiss?
Nah, she's not into that. she'll come and watch a game, on and off. But
love it. Well, all right, Tony. Well, thank you very much for joining us, and we'll keep up, and good luck with the fall.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Jared, until next time, you give you a solid today. I'm going to give you a B, solid B.
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason why is
I know, there's no
beer in the studio.
I already knew that. I knew. Hey,
I almost flipped the table over, but then you had a lot of equipment on it.
I'd give at least a B+.
B plus. Come on, I know. I've heard you're a little tougher than that. You're being generous. All right, guys. Hey, we're out of here. Thank you very much for listening. Like, review, follow, share. We'll catch you next time.
Thank you.